8 o'clock, almost on the dot. I'm not going to be on long. I just have not felt well today, as you can tell by the lovely way that I look. I have not felt well today. So I have just kind of YouTube perused and gone over the internet. Just had a few moments of like, what is going on in the world? Specifically with the female gender. What the crap is going on with the female group out there? Seriously, y'all. Like, I'm seriously concerned with women. I just spent like 30 minutes on Instagram because I'm very rarely am on Instagram. And so I thought I'd go through Instagram. I just spent a half hour on Instagram looking at women's profiles because that's all that came up. It's all that came up. And literally 99% of them, they were either in the flower garden or in the vegetable garden. Hi, Gypsy. They were either in the flower garden or in the vegetable garden. And it would have like captions of like what it's like to be a green witch. Honey, you grew a cucumber. You ain't no witch. You grew a cucumber. Pat yourself on the back. Now next year, shoot for the stars and try to grow some green beans and baby taters and corn. But it's like everything that requires the least amount of effort these days is rewarded so wholly. And I don't understand. Or have we just got the participation trophy generation grown up now and they still need those participation trophies? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it when women that grow cucumbers go on Instagram and try to dispel rumors. This is so difficult. I waited 55 days for this to propagate, prayed every night. And this is what it takes to be a white and green witch in today's era. You grew a cucumber. They're real easy. They vine off and go everywhere. And honestly, you didn't do most of the work. The honeybees did, so shut up. I don't know. Is it just me? Is it just me, or am I just like seeing this whole little population of idiots that think they've done something miraculous? I mean, good. Grow your own food. That's great. But don't get on here and act like you had to make a pact with Satan to get a cucumber out of the ground. I mean, my Lord have mercy. Are you that stupid? Somebody asked today if they thought AOC was going to run for president, and I thought, oh, shit. So we now know that the only thing you need to run for president is 1.5 brain cells and a hootenanny. I don't understand. I don't understand what we're rolling into here. Women. What's wrong? What is wrong with women? Why can't women get their crap together? It's always somebody else's fault that if they do the most minor thing, somebody has to praise them. Somebody has to do 5 to 6 social media posts and call them 6 to 7 different ethereal names because it was just amazing. But the women that procreate and give birth and provide the next generations, we're just stupid, lazy people who had no career motivation. Even the women that did a career and raised children, we're stupid. We deserve none of what they're selling out there. But look at this single gorgeous woman that wears her TT shirts everywhere. She grew a cucumber and is a green witch. Oh, let the heavens bow down and men fall at her feet. I don't get it. I don't get it. I really wish I did. Like, I look at women and I'm like, are you that stupid? Are you that stupid? Like, if I shake you, will you not rattle? Because you ain't got nothing inside? Okay. Yeah, but that's I don't normally spend that much time on the internet, but I have not felt well today, so I thought, well, I'll just peruse. Never again shall I peruse anything. I was so let down. No wonder we don't know what a woman is anymore. They don't know if they're women or white witches or I don't know what. If you put on a crochet dress, apparently you're an ethereal being. Well, hell, my 73-year-old grandma used to do that. She wasn't no near an angel. I'm telling you. I don't get it. I don't get it. So these city chicks put on their hippy dippy crochet show your nip shirts and go online and get patted on the back all day and told they're gorgeous and beautiful and oh my god, you're making the world such a better place. But you talk to a tomboy that's kicking her butt every day to actually farm acreage or grow beef cattle or, produce something and maintain a herd. Oh my god, she's nasty. She just wants to be a man. She doesn't know how to be a girl. Well, I'm sorry. Let me go put on my crochet knit slip shirt and grow you a cucumber, and then you can call me a green witch and worship me like the woman I am. I don't understand. I just don't understand why we allow these people with these small little victories to consume social media, and we completely overlook the generations of hard workers that are actually doing something, that are actually feeding people, that are actually getting dirty. They're too busy working till dark, heck, 11 p.m., getting hay in, getting crops in, to be consumed with social media. Y'all, when I was 5 years old, I was helping in the garden. My God, I could grow carrots and beans and potatoes and corn, and I certainly didn't think I needed to post it all over the internet and tell somebody that I was a green witch. And where did all this witch crap come back from again? There's nothing witchy about putting a seed in the dirt and watching it do its thing. You literally augment that in no way. It is nature bound. It does it on its own. You didn't cause any of that crap. But these women just, oh, I made that happen. I made that happen. And I'm like, no, honey, you didn't. Good Lord made that happen when he willed this world into existence. And you just figured out and were smart enough to stick the darn thing in the ground. I wouldn't be going on social media saying you think you're a genius if that's all you're capable of. And then to reward it, I'm a witch. God. What are you if you grow watermelon? Because them suckers are hard to grow, I'm here to tell you. I don't know. I just have a frustrating day. I didn't feel good today and thought, well, I'm going to go online and feel better. Not. And then that stupid woman that they messaged or they questioned. Did y'all watch the body language of the lady that they questioned at those hearings? If I taught you anything about body language, please go watch the woman that they questioned and tell me what you think about that woman. Because surely, God, I've taught y'all enough about body language. Y'all could read her like a book. Because I'm here to tell you, she was even giant print. I mean, she wasn't hiding nothing. She wasn't hiding nothing. So I just had one of those days where it's been like, it's been a comical existence today. I don't understand what the world's coming to. People wonder why women are so mean. The avenues to be a woman are just kind of coming in against us. Used to be it was wide open. You could be a tomboy. You could, be a burly woman. You could get out there and work with men. Now they've got all these different gender specifics you're supposed to fit into. I wouldn't fit into none of them when I was a teenager. My God, I was meaner than any boy you ever met. I was a better farmhand than any boy you ever met, too. But I would have been labeled so incorrectly if I had lived in this generation. And that bothers me. Because I know there are plenty of little girls growing up that feel probably the same way I did when I was their age. And now they've got even smaller boxes that they're supposed to be fit into. I don't get it. I don't get it. Hi, Diane. Hey, Kim. Oh, basically, Campbell, I laid in bed all day. I felt like crap today. I've been having migraine issues, and I think my body just needed a day to veg. But then I went on Instagram and saw this woman's post, and she was like showing her one cucumber she had grown in her garden and accredited it. She's like, I'm a green witch. And I was like, you grew a cucumber. And I was just like, why, women? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we doing this to ourselves? And last week, I have met so many women, and it's been like, where were you raised? What were you taught? I don't understand you. But the woman that they questioned on the January 6th committee, if I taught y'all anything about body language, go watch her and tell me what you think. Because I watched her and laughed my behind off. I'm just here to tell you, that's the best laugh I had all day. Talk about someone that probably was in the gifted program in school and got all the teachers' treats. But I watched that and laughed my hind end off, and I thought, oh my God. But then, you go online and there's just so many people that will just swallow anything. I guess everybody just wants a cucumber from a green witch. I don't know. It just has blown my mind. What people are capable of and their behavior online, and what they think of themselves, and the disregard they hold for others. And I don't know. 4 or 5 years ago, when I posted stuff about my way of life online, I would get at least 2 to 3 death threats a year around deer season. 2 to 3 at least. Now you can watch, and people on YouTube are going out to lead these self-sustaining lives, and people just fawn all over them, and they're getting in touch with their ancestors and how brave of them. And I'm sitting here going, that's the same thing that I've been doing my entire life that y'all have threatened to kill me over for how many times, It's just crazy. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. I watched this guy for an hour today. I just laid there because he had like millions of views on this video, and I thought, obviously he does something amazing when he goes camping, right? Because he's got like 1 million views. Obviously he does something amazing. No. I really had high hopes that this was, I was just laying there trying to go to sleep, and I thought, this is good enough to try to sleep too. I'll see what he does. It's so amazing. I'll drift off. I watched for an hour. He set up camp in the rain, let his wet dog in his tent on his down comforter, which I thought, well, he ain't never going to get that sucker dry now. Then started far, precariously close to his guide rope on his tent. Had his Jeep downwind, so all the smoke was going in it. Brought pierogies, frozen, to boil out. Took an hour and a half for them suckers to cook, and I thought, well, you've done called up every predator in the next mile and a half, taking an hour and a half to cook something. And I just kept waiting. I was like, what does he do that is so miraculous? Nothing. And then he sat there and he put out this little honking table made out of little pallet sticks and ate with chopsticks, ate his pierogies with chopsticks, and brought basil to chop up to put on his dinner. I wouldn't just bring a shaker can or something, but he brought fresh basil to the woods to shake up to put on his dinner. And I was just like, oh, okay. People absorb this. They find it absolutely amazing. And I'm sitting here going, they're doing nothing. He's in a fabricated tent. He's taken propane to cook with. He's not started his own fire. He's let his wet dog into his tent, so he's going to freeze his butt off all night. And he's taking frozen food. Go catfishing. Build your lean-to. And only eat what you catch. Now that's camping. But people watch this and they think that this is like survival stuff, and I'm sitting there going, this is rich kid play camping. This is rich kid come with me in my $80,000 Jeep to a place that was mowed, the place he stayed, it was mowed. And if you're going in the backwoods, who mows the backwoods? Nobody. Nobody mows the backwoods. It's supposed to be so many miles back off the main where nobody goes. And how the hell did it get mowed? Somebody was there. It got mowed. And so I sit here and I watch these people, and I'm like, this is what people gravitate toward these days. Holy crap, on a cracker, the world is doomed. And then I heard someone ask AOC if she was going to go run for president. And I thought, well, that just ruined my whole day. That just ruined my whole day. Because I have had bowel movements with more common sense than AOC. I'm just here to tell you. I think my dog is smarter than her. But the expectation for women here lately has grown, or has not grown, it has lessened. And I think that's why women have not grown emotionally, mentally, physically in the last couple of decades. We've just not grown. We've become terribly selfish. Terribly selfish, terribly self-serving. But we certainly haven't grown as people. Not at all. If you grow a cucumber and think you have to go on social media and tell everybody you're a green witch, I don't think your granny switched you near enough when you was a kid. I just don't. I just, it's just like, it's a cucumber. I just don't get it. Well, there you go. See, you have elevated yourself to like warlock status or something. I don't know. I just thought that was so crazy with the disrespect that's going on for farmers right now, and just the disrespect for people that live in the country altogether that is continuously going on. For all these stupid women to be putting on their little crochet show my nipple dresses and going online and wading through grass where I'm going, you're fixing to get a boatload of chiggers. And then they get on there and they get 1 million views because they grew a cucumber this big. It's not even ready to pick. Don't pick it. It's not even pickling size. Leave it on the vine. I get so frustrated sometimes. And I'm like, who marries these women so that they can like recreate the next generation of this? Who marries these women? Yes, he ate his dinner with chopsticks. Now listen, it's hard enough camping and putting your tent up and stuff, but if you're going to bring a propane gas cook stove, bring you some silverware. I was just like, what the crap are you up to, dude? I just watched and I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Well, I think that's what it is. I think that the only form of country that is acceptable is the city's perspective of country. But if you get into the real country way of life, they get really offended really quickly. And I'm like, you do know that you're basically playing. You're playing. Like it's like playing Barbies when you go out and camp like that. It's like playing Barbies. You're not actually camping. I mean, yeah, great for you living in the great outdoors and sleeping where you can hear the crickets and the bugs. But if you're going to get in touch with nature, your 32-foot tent that sprouts out of the back of your open Jeep, and your propane cook stove, it just defeats the purpose. It defeats the purpose. Learn some skills. Skills are not difficult. I mean, gosh, when I was a kid, we used to go to the lake and go fishing and stay all night. And we were little and we kept ourselves alive, fed. First 2 or 3 that got drug in were eaten, and the rest were put on a stringer to take home the next day, and we were fine. And now I watch these people, and you've got to have the gear. So if you're a man, you've got to have all the gear on, and you've got to have the big vest and the big boots and just the right pants and like the fly fisherman shirt. You're not fly fishing. What are you doing? And so you've got to look the part. And if you're a female, you've got to have the crochet, boho, hippie, show your nipple dresses on. I'm just confused about what I saw today. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's just for them to get some attention. No, my mama would have smacked me blind. My daddy would have beat me. I would have been too terrified. Honestly, the way I was raised, because I was working chicken houses, tobacco farms, and cattle farms when I was little. If I had acted as stupid as these grown-ups now act when they go into the wild to live a sustainable life, I would have been so embarrassed because I would have known if my family saw me, they would have beat me blind because I would have been an embarrassment to everyone. And I don't get it. And like, I could show more of how bumpkin my life is, but it's normally just completely knocked down and disrespected. And so I don't show the nitty gritty because it's just not respected. But I always get tickled at these girls that are like, they make there's a whole slew of women on Etsy that are called Culture Vulture, that all they do is take bones and make jewelry. And lots of times it's not actually bones, it's replica of bones, but they'll tell you it's bones. And they got this big saga about how they go out and they walk 7 miles a day and they look for bones and they only pick up and use what they find that's sourced from nature, so they never harm anything. Or okay, number one, I don't care how many miles you walk, you're not going to find that many raven skulls, that many mink and weasel skulls and bones. It's just when they die, these little critters like to go off and die and not be found. So they don't just miraculously at the cross path of walking trails. So it's very rare that that's going to occur. Um, and even if you have a good dog, if it's sun bleached bones, your dog's not gonna mark on. It's not gonna scent trail them and find them. And then they'll say it's a raven skull, but I can look at it and know it's a replica skull, fabricated from that stuff that they make. Because I used to taxidermy work, so I know what's out there. And so people buy these things and they think they're buying real stuff, and I'm like, oh, they, oh, you know, and and it's just frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating. And it's not real bone when they're shipping it to certain places because then it requires tags or paperwork, or it has to have gone through a certain kind of cleaning or spraying. That's especially if it goes overseas. So they're not. But I just I watched him for an hour because I was just like, okay, it's got 1.4 million views. This has got to, something great has to happen. I just lost an hour of my life, and I was like, okay, dude. I mean, there was I don't know. Normally, when we go camping, there's like a motivation to it. Like we're either fishing, we put out trot lines, put out jug lines. We're doing something to generate food to process when we get done to take back home. Um, And if we do go fun camping, it's down at the lake because it's so goddamn hot you can't stay in your house anymore. And I don't know. I don't know. I see that like 30-year-olds are acting like 13-year-olds, and women are acting like they're playing some kind of Dungeon and Dragons game. And it's like, listen, there's miracles out there and there's great things, and there's things about nature that are wonderful, and we can talk about the healing energy of the earth, and being grounded by the earth and stuff. But if you grow a cucumber, you are not a green witch. You just put a seed in the ground which the good Lord had made to know how to do its thing. You did not do anything. And if you got a cucumber, the honeybees likely did that for you, unless you went out there and cross pollinated everything. I don't think you did. But I just got really irritated today, and Tennessee thing, and that I don't know. Is it just me that it seems like women are really like the pedestal keeps getting higher and higher, but the behavior keeps getting lower and lower. And it's kind of like this issue that Upchurch is going through with Nicole Arbor. Um, That woman, tell me something that woman has done specifically in her life that no other person could have done. Tell me something where she has benefited someone so much, like wholly depleting herself to benefit someone else. I can't tell you, but I can tell you that the majority of the money or the clicks or the fame that she's gotten has been built upon the miseries of others, the insecurities of others, fake titties. And I get really frustrated. I get really frustrated. Like I was in line at the gas station a few years ago, and this woman, bless her heart, if she had tried to fart, you would have seen the air bubble trying to escape. That is how tight her britches were. And I think she had used like two cards between gas and Dr. Pepper and something else. She'd used two credit cards and still had like 20 something cents left over. And rather than open up her big pocketbook, which I'm sure had change rolling at the bottom, she just looked at the men behind her, and I was at the back of the line, and they started digging through their pockets. And then they all turn around and look at me, and I'm like, if y'all want to pay for it, y'all can, but I ain't paying for it. If I needed 28 cents and I was sitting up there, y'all wouldn't be digging through your Wranglers and your Levi's for me like that, so don't expect me to dig through them for her. And they just all looked at me like, how dare you? And I was like, really? Because we can do a role reversal real quick, and I guarantee nobody gives a flip if I have 28 cents. And so it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to see this, I don't know, imbalance. It's frustrating to see all these people that have these pages, like this little girl, I think her name is Isabel. I can't remember her last name. She's on YouTube, and she swears that she lives out in the middle of nowhere, but she's actually just on the back 40 of her parents' property, and they helped build her a little home. But she goes out and traipses around, and the way she only shows certain vantage points, you would think she was like in the Rockies and snowed in and would have to be heliported out. No, she's right behind her parents. It finally came out, but by then she had created such a fan base. But go look at every thumbnail she has on her Instagram. She's half naked or laying herself out, exposing herself in some way, and it's like you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Why do women think that if you have to have a page or something to share, you have to have the body to share it with? Why can't we just have the mind? I don't understand. That's it, yeah. Oh gosh, I went fishing. I went wade fishing when I was 7.5 months pregnant, and I slid down under a barbed wire fence so I could get to a particular part of the creek that I wanted to wade fish. And I was so fat and roly poly, I couldn't get back up the little bluff to get under the barbed wire fence, and I had to literally walk like an extra mile to get home because I couldn't get back up where I'd slid through because I was so round. I will never forget that. Hey, Denise. So I don't know. I watched a lot of the internet, and I specifically went and started looking for female pages and influencers that had a large following. And I cannot find anyone that is just normal. Either they have a background in modeling and they've transitioned to social media, or they've moved from the city to tackle the country and they're doing it in this very posh way. And I'm sitting here going, ugh. Or they swear they're living off grid and they have like 5 gazillion solar panels. And I'm like, you do know that what's in those things and in the batteries that run them is so toxic that if you were to have any kind of leak, you would ruin this land for the next 50 years. But no, they don't know that. People think they're great people because they're solar. And so I just watch these people and I'm just like, bless y'all's hearts. And then you have people that order seeds. Like I watched this one lady and her husband, and they went and scratched out a place off of nowhere and went to plant seeds and plant plants. And this is how little understanding they had. Number one, they didn't understand that the annual plants that they planted would not come back the next year. So they had invested a lot of money that they did not anticipate having to invest again, and therefore they had already assured themselves for the second year, because they thought they were not going to have to pay that money again to reproduce those plants, that they were going to come up on their own. But they were annuals. They're not going to come up again. They're annuals. Annuals. They had planted very few perennials. But even the bigger mistake that they had made is when they had gone and gotten their seeds, they had gotten the seeds that are not heirloom quality, that are like the modified seed. Well, they grew stuff that first year from that seed, took seed, thought they were going to grow stuff from the seed they took from those old plants. Well, I hate to tell you, but modified seeds, you might as well just feed them to the birds, because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to propagate and grow another plant. That's why they're modified. They're modified so that we have to go back to Monsanto for seeds, and we can't keep our own. That's why if you want seeds that will actually give you plants that you can harvest seeds off of and grow seeds or grow plants the next year, you've got to get heirloom quality seeds that are not in any way altered. And they didn't understand any of this. And I was like, man, if I talked to them for 3 minutes, I could have saved them 2 years of struggle in their life. 3 minutes of talking with me could have saved them a butt ton of money and crying. So I don't know, maybe it's just me and the logic is no longer there, but I literally, like, when this woman was like, look at my garden, and it was literally like a container garden that's smaller than my dining room table. She's like, look at my container garden and my vining cucumbers. I've got a cucumber. Now, her cucumber plant was so big that she had probably allowed way too many suckers and had not done it right, because she should have had 7 or 8 cucumbers on that plant that was that big. So we got problems already. But number 2, she had 1 cucumber. It's about this big. It's about that big. It's about 3.5, 4 inches. And underneath there, she was like, question me below about what it's like to be a green witch. You grew a cucumber. I can throw a bowl of cucumber that I've pitted and skinned for, like, those little salads I make for David, and have a volunteer plant come up. So I'm not sure how much effort it took from you to make that happen. I pretty much think it's just Mother Nature, and that 1 cucumber does not a green witch make. I just got tickled with her. I just got absolutely tickled with her. Yeah, anybody wanting a dream catcher, there's currently 1 before you. Otherwise, get in line. Email me now. Still 0 nightmares. That's great. That's great. And see, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a witch or nothing. I just understand energy. I just understand the world. I understand the way the mind works. And there's nothing witchy about it. There's nothing witchy about it. But 1 cucumber, and you're a green witch. I just thought it was just, oh my gosh. I just thought, oh wow. I laughed. I got mad, and then I laughed for a good half hour, and I thought, how does this happen? How do women create this for themselves? You got free to be anything you wanted to be, because you didn't want to be seen as a piece of meat, or to be seen as the pet of a male. But you freed yourself to go put on raggy clothes, show your body, so that you can turn yourself into, like, bottom dwelling creatures that are begging for male attention and begging to belong to the biggest bidder. Not even the person that cares for you, just the highest bidder. How is that any different than what you wanted to be free from? It's just like, I mean, if you ask me, women in the United States, they just did a kiss your butt curve with all this feminism crap. You're right back to where he started. It benefited nobody. And if you get freedom, okay, be careful. I'll yell at you later. If you get freedom and you use it to turn yourself into exactly what you said you wanted to be free from, it just doesn't sound so smart to me. I don't know. Well, then I watched that lady that got questioned on the January 6th crap, and her body language was all sorts of wrong. You could tell that she wanted to please somebody. She had been promised something. She was working hard for it, and she got a little. She got a little too jovial there for a moment and had to hold in a laugh. And then got concerned that people really thought, they probably saw that. And then she did a huge portrayal of how sad and concerned she was. And I was just sitting there going, y'all should have picked somebody older with better lying skills. I mean, this is just not. What is someone this young with no background doing walking around our White House anyway? That's what they're doing. They're there to fill these little roles that are necessary. Because the older women that have a little bit of smarts aren't stupid enough to take a bribe like that. I mean, just be honest. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. Oh yeah, she was. I mean, you could see it all over her face. Like, I've done body language videos for y'all before because I used to have to read people every day to save my own butt because I supervise murderers. And I've taught y'all enough, but yeah, anybody that's been with me for a year or two, watch that and probably laugh their butt off. But what I'm dying at is people are going, did you see what she said? Did you see what she admitted to court? That is not a court hearing. And if you think that's a court hearing, honey, the next thing on your step up to womanhood is a cucumber, apparently, if you think that's a court hearing. I'm sorry. It's just, you have to laugh or be really upset once. So I just have to laugh. Well, I've been sitting here. I made these to put on Lewis hoops. So they're little iridescent beads with spirals at the bottom. I'm going to put them on little hoops. But it's just like, oh my gosh, lady. Yeah, she kept repeating words. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you about, okay, if that was a traumatic event for her, trauma sticks. Like spaghetti you threw to the wall. Trauma sticks. And so when people are telling you about traumatic things, they normally start where the trauma was at peak momentum. Why? Because that's where it sticks. That's where your mind goes to. And when you think of trauma, you don't think of the whole storyline. You think of just the act of trauma that scarred you. That is why people that have trauma and have PTSD keep coming back to that one issue, or prompted by that one smell, or prompted by that one thought or that one feeling. It's never a full story, a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's just that moment smacks you in the face, and boom, you're back there. So how did I know that she was not talking about a traumatic moment? Because when they asked her to tell about the story, she started at the beginning, the middle, and the end. She told a story, a linear story. People that were truly in a trauma incident or something that truly traumatized them or caused them fear, they will not start and tell a linear story. They will start where the trauma hit, and then you'll have to kind of guide them and ask them to go back and explain. And she had rehearsed that so much. And you could tell it. And you could tell by the way she was moving her eyes and the way she was pursing her mouth. And she's probably somebody that has manipulated a lot of men that walk the walls of the White House, gotten away with a whole lot. But I think she probably just put her whole set of dumb on display for the world today. Bless her heart, Lord love her. But that's why I did not believe her. She was not going back and thinking and tapping into an emotional memory. She was telling a linear story. There was nothing trauma-based about it. Now, people that have trauma, they stick on that trauma moment. It sticks in their head. And if you ask them what happened that day, they will immediately go to the traumatic incident. They will not say, well, I woke up, made my bed, brushed my teeth. No, they will go to the traumatic incident. And that's why when we counsel people to have trauma, we teach them how to walk through a linear story of their trauma Because what happens when you have a beginning, beginning, middle, and an end? You have an end. An end is closure. And that's why trauma sticks and it repeats, repeats, repeats. You don't have closure. So if you can turn that trauma story into a linear story and they can find a closure, even if it doesn't make sense of what happened, just as long as they can understand that they got through the day and there is an ending to that story, then it will reduce the traumatic incidents and the PTSD and the flashbacks just enormously. If you ever get if I get a song stuck in my head, that's the only way to stop it, is to sit down and literally do the whole song and sing the whole song and sing the last line so that you have closure. Your brain needs closure. Your brain maps out for a linear story, and when it doesn't have one, so that's how trauma can be identified in somebody, and you know if somebody's really talking from a trauma perspective or if they're just telling a story. So there's a little tip for anybody. If you've got somebody that's going through a lot of trauma, sit down and have them write it out in a linear beginning, middle, and end. And even if the ending is not what they wanted, if they can get through and see that it was a full event that they got through, they will get some closure from that. Oh yeah, I think there's 2 of them now that are willing to testify, but see, they won't let them in. But what blows my mind is that little stupid girl went under oath before she did all that. So if they ever pull her up and put her into a real court, what she said under oath could perjure herself later, especially when people come back and testify and say this did not happen, this is untrue. And there's multiple ones that say it didn't happen, and then only her. And then if she ever changes her story, she's perjured herself, and she's lost her whole career, her everything. But she sat there today with that little smirk on, thinking she'd really done something big. And I thought, oh, you're stupid. You're pretty, but you're stupid. So, bet you can't grow a cucumber. And I kept thinking, somewhere out there, a mother is like going, holy crap, did I not teach you better? I know that. Somewhere out there, a mother is just wanting to just slap her silly. But yeah, today has just been kind of an epic day. And I had a friend look at me and say, what's wrong with the world today? What's wrong with women? What happened to women? I said, we haven't had a purpose in how many decades? Not a purpose. Even if it's a purpose you don't want, purpose gives your life meaning. If you have a life without meaning, you have one of those wandering lives. It doesn't lead to a lot of self-discovery or happiness. And so you don't learn much about yourself. And what you do learn is very superficial, topical. It doesn't go very deep. The only thing that a lot of women have learned in the last few decades is they have every option. Therefore, most of them are scared of any option. And they have made certain things, certain badges of honor out of really regressive behaviors, such as the big A that's been discussed all over social media this week. Show me historically one culture, one society that resorted to that, whether it was for sacrificial purposes or whatever, which we can discuss that on another day, that did not immediately fall to pieces. But the Romans did, the Aztecs did, the Phoenicians did. Fell to bits. Like in the Phoenicians, you find mass graves of thousands and thousands of newborns. And what they're uncovering about the Phoenicians now is actually they were one of the most toxic cultures, because everybody thought that they were so great because they were kind of pitting Rome and some other places and kind of counterbalancing some global issues. But actually, they were just not wanting to be found out because of everything that they had going on. So now that these archaeologists are uncovering these mass graves, they're realizing that the Phoenicians were one of the most sacrificial cultures in history. And that some of the things they did were absolutely atrocious. So, as we learn, we have to be able to flex and see kind of the truth. But if you go back in history, any society that has created a a generation of executioners with women has struggled afterward. Because you've got to think, 52% of the world's population is walking around, and within 10 to 12 weeks of conceiving, they have the power to snuff out a life. But the other 48% of the people walking around the earth, or anyone that may happen to have a car accident with this individual or anything horrible with this individual that might snuff out that life in another way, could be found criminally complicit in the death of an unborn baby. Even if that mother was on the way to Big A that thing and got struck on a because she was jaywalking, that person that struck her would be criminally charged with murder. Inconsistencies within societies like that, powers like that are held by one group, they create a huge, it's almost hard to explain. They create this huge power imbalance. And where women have felt for so many years they have no power, they have really taken this on as their power and made it like this transition into adulthood, this becoming of age thing. Normally, a transition into adulthood is the accomplishment of something that is difficult, that teaches you a lot of lessons, and that helps your community or helps yourself grow emotionally or physically or however. And you got to look at the dichotomy there of what an actual coming of age test is and what we've created in this new society for women. And what we've created is a lot of regression, a lot of forced regression, and a lot of really selfish endeavors. And you have to, I mean, I know at some level we have to take every case on an individual case, because there are certain cases where I understand there's necessity, especially if the mother's life is in harm's way, and if there's a criminal component to the conception. I understand all of that. But the sad thing is when we're seeing all these people rant and rave and riot, they're not talking about the 98% of people that do this for a casual, financial, easy way out. They want to rag about that 1% that would be the criminal element, or the mother's life being in danger. But they want to base the entire agenda on a 1%. And that is just not this. We have no balance in our community anymore. We have no balance in our expectations of others. We've lost all balance, and women especially have lost all balance. To where if you're a woman and you garden now, you have to be a green witch and you have to wear a crochet shirt where your nipples slip through. Nobody wants to talk to you or see you. They don't want to see a normal woman do normal things, have a normal life, and have a normal existence, be normally happy. That is no. They don't believe in that. They believe you have to be some form of exceptional being to have a life worth living. And so since it's so unattainable, it's so easy to say, well, then why let anyone try to achieve this? We might as well just snuff them out. Why let someone struggle to attain this, goal that's out of touch? Let's just snuff them out. So, I think, this is for me, this is where logic comes in, because we know that ectopic pregnancies, they never result in full-term pregnancies. They never result in a viable baby. They always result in almost taking the mother's life. So we know that that is basically like a ruptured appendix. It's not going to happen. The baby's not viable. It's not in a viable spot. And it's basically the mother's body is treating it like pus and attacking it. So there's only one way for that to be fixed. So that right there is like, that's a dumb moment for me. I understand that completely. That's a medical issue that needs to be maintained or fixed. But the more we allow people to go that way on this topic, then the more crap like this is going to go that way. We've got to have some kind of balance. We've got to have some kind of logic. That's just, yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense to me, because to me that is a pure medical problem. I had a friend that was just plagued with ectopic pregnancies, and she would get so excited when she would have a positive pregnancy test, and then boom, almost immediately they would find out that it was not where it needed to be, and it had already started to cause problems. And she would just, I mean, the emotions that she would go through because of this, because it was something she wanted so much, and it never worked out. And finally, after a few of those, she finally did conceive again and have another baby, but it was so emotional. And so these women that are chanting and screaming about this to make it something that is just, you just walk through a door and wave your hand and it happens, that's what's making it so hard on the other end of the spectrum. We need to be in the middle. As I've told y'all many times, the polarized opposites at each end are what's wrong. Those on both sides, that's what's wrong. It's where we live in the middle. It's where the majority of us that reside there. It's where the middle is where the compromise is where the harmony is where the logic is. We've got to get back to that middle, that balance. And we can't do this with people walking through the roads and streets screaming that to prove a point. I'll go get pregnant by Republican men and go and terminate that pregnancy and call and tell them all I've terminated each pregnancy. Okay, listen. That is in no way a rational, logical, emotionally stable thought to have. But they put all that on the news and they hype up these generations. And so sadly what we see are more of the radical behavior. And so when the pendulum swings and the power goes back the other way, it goes way too far again, and we have to wait for it to come back and settle in the middle. So it's going to be a while before we have any kind of livable environment on this topic. It's just going to be a while, because it doesn't matter which radical side is doing the harm, it's still harm. And we just have to wait for it to logically swing back to the middle. But what I am amazed about is how many people don't know what an ectopic pregnancy is. All the people that didn't know what the big A word was defined as, and that the baby had to be dead before it could be removed from the mother's body. They didn't understand that. I actually had one person on a video say, I don't know why you just can't abort your baby and then let it be adopted. So we're not having the conversations we need to have an informed society. And it's because media puts the radicalized, polar opposite sides on the media. And so all they show is this insane lunacy, and we're not learning anything to propel humanity forward. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. To me, it will never be banned ever again completely. And, like there's a lady in Mississippi who was struggling. She's like, well, I'm going to leave Mississippi and go live in Europe. And I was like, why would you do that if the reason you're picking a place to live is so you can have this right? Because Europe has stricter laws than Mississippi. Read. And so what irritates me is I think when the pendulum, when we start having the conversations and it comes back and it settles, women are going to have more rights. It's going to be represented more by each state and the group of people that live there. And so you're going to have to vote with your feet. If you want to live in a place that's going to allow it, you're going to have to move to a place that allows it, and you're going to have to, the states are going to be told by their majority of citizens what they want, and the states will have to listen. Now, right now, we've had trigger laws that have slapped down, and they were basically set to slap down years ago. If this ever got altered, they would just immediately stop, and then we'd have to go through a conversation, dialogue, voting, and establishing the state's new laws. So a lot of people are freaking out that the states with trigger laws are going to absolutely say no. Well, no, they're stopping because they realize, whoop, there's been a change. Now it's come back to the states. We as a state have to line up, handle this, and make our own regulations. And that's going to take a while. It's absolutely going to take a while. But there's always going to be places like California, New York, Colorado that are going to allow them up to birth, like up to moments before birth, which boggles my mind. How anybody could carry something that long and not be attached, but just have a respect for the life within them. I don't, that boggles my mind. But it will never be illegal again. It may be in certain states that the states won't allow it, but it will never be purely federally illegal. It will always be happening somewhere, because if it goes back to the states, we have so many states that are basically safety valves for this, that have said we will always allow it. So there are options, and people say, well, then people have to travel, and that's a lot of money, and they can afford to travel. And listen, the reason that this has become such a comfortable fix for people is because federal dollars have paid for it. Now federal dollars are not going to be paying for it. It's going to have to go back to states, and states are going to have to allocate funds, and it probably won't pay as much. So there's a large likelihood that unless you were sliding scale below the poverty line before now, you couldn't have afforded one anyway. But most likely now, everyone's going to have to pay something, especially if they turn it into a medical procedure that's going to be billable onto insurance, which, we're heading that way. So everybody wants pity. Well, I've had a specialist that's up north that I've wanted to see for goddamn 12 years. I've never had the money, the means, or the insurance that would allow me to travel to go see him. So guess what? My fat butt, it was just completely out of the options. It was not an option for me. Nobody felt sad or sorry for me. So, I'm not going to feel sad or sorry for somebody that has to make a decision and has to be responsible for that decision. That's where emotions, just, you need to cut them off, and people need to do what they need to do, but you don't need to milk other people because of your decision. That's your decision. You need to have an emotion about it. You need to come to grips with it. You need to resolve it, but you don't need all these other people to go through it with you. It's not necessary. But it's just highly likely that if you can't afford the travel to another state, then you probably can't afford the surgery anyway. And it all comes back down to responsibility. I was a very responsible young woman when I was a teenager. I grew up on the farm. I knew exactly what procreation created. It created little things that I had to take care of. So I knew when I was a teenager and those boys looked at me with those little smoldering eyes, I was like, oh, you just go on that way and leave me the heck alone. Because, I'm not ready to handle any of that. I was very honest with myself. If that's what being an adult is, then I'm not going to be an adult till I probably have to. I was married. In this area, you don't have an extended young adulthood or childhood. You grow up, you get married, you have kids, and you have a life. And so when I was a teenager, I was not rushing to become an adult, because I knew that I was going to have to become an adult early enough anyway, because of the laws of the land here in Appalachia. So I think I started dating my first husband for when I was 17. And we lived a far ways away, so the only time we got to see each other was when he could come to church and visit. And we dated for over a year and a half. I moved a little bit closer when I went to college, but it still a struggle to see him. But we were very committed to each other. We got married. had 2 kids. We were married for a little over 6 years. And then he just hit sorry and kept going. And I had to raise 2 toddlers, move back home. And I got very lucky and found David. And we've been married almost 20 years now. But I remember being 13, 14, 15, 16, and all of my classmates talking, about what they were getting into and what they were doing on the weekends. And I was just like, that doesn't sound like fun to me. That sounds like playing Russian roulette, but you didn't leave a chamber open. And I knew lots of young ladies that had to make very bad decisions. And, I've known them since kindergarten, and now I'm 44 and they're still local. And they still have emotional hardships over the decisions they had to make because they started to adult way too young. And we want little girls to look like they're 25 when they're 12. And we want them, we send such a backwards and upside down signal to little girls. Oh, you're worthy of love, you're worthy of affection, but you better look like a snack, but you better not take too much care of yourself, but you better always present your best side. And it's just so confusing to be a young lady. And so I can see how young women absolutely constantly have to validate themselves through a physical act with someone else. Because we certainly are not raising young women, to be the young women that could take care of themselves that were raised 20, 30, 40 years ago. So I understand there's a heavy reliance for these women upon someone else. Even though they think they're free, there's a heavy reliance that if you don't have the body, you don't have the look, then you better find the man with the money because those are your options. Well, I'm sorry, but my grandma and my mother, their generations had far more options than that. So have we really gone forward and progressed, or have we just regressed back to where we don't understand how sick the world is now? Yeah, I'm kind of, that's where I am too. Like if there's a medical reason, and I completely understand, I have no problem with that. If there was incest, rape, or abuse or something, and I can even stretch my head to understand that. Even if I were in that position, I would have probably still chosen to have the baby. But I can understand that with other people as well. But what I cannot understand is making a game out of it to where you keep tally marks so that you can march down the road and tell people how many things you've killed in your life. And it's just like, I don't understand how that is even how that should even be part of the discussion. Why that behavior should even be allowed. Why that behavior should even be explored. Because that behavior is psychopathy. That's just what it is. It's to celebrate something so horrible. And any way you slice it or dice it, that's a poor choice of words. Any way you talk about this, having this done, this procedure, is going to harm someone physically and emotionally, possibly both. So I don't know. I just sometimes think we've gone backwards, and women don't understand the power that they have in their bodies, the power that they have. That we create the next freaking generation, create them from freaking scratch. But nobody wants to see the power in that. Yeah, I think adoption is, there are like 36 families to one child waiting for adoption. So we have plenty of families that want kids. See, and if you take it on, and you'll find the blessing in it. I always think that when you're tested like that, there is a blessing. There's a lesson to learn. There's a blessing, and there's a growth. And I personally think that's why we don't see any growth in the female spectrum in the last couple of decades, because it has been a very selfish, self-serving lifestyle that has been explored by the last couple of generations, and it really irritates the crap out of me. I meet women every day, and you just can't talk to them anymore. There's nothing to talk about. They're just aggressive and mean, and condescending and disruptive in the workplace. And I just, I struggle. I have very few female friends, and the few that I have them for very specific reasons. And it's just very, I have found maneuvering through the female society very, just a struggle the last couple of decades, just an absolute struggle. And I don't have really any extreme views, because even if I don't agree with you, if you sit down and tell me your story, I'm going to find a way to understand what you're going through and to have compassion for you, because that's what you should do. You should take it all on an individual basis. But we still need to have safeties that stop that pendulum from swinging out to here, because this is the safe spot. This is the place where we all need to live for balance and harmony and logic. And so I just wish society would stop swinging back and forth, because I'm getting really dizzy and over it. Yeah, grandparents that take on another generation are amazing people. I mean, because you're looking at the quiet years, and then boom, you're doing it all over again. I mean, that just takes an internal strength that I don't know if I would have. Yeah, I had my babies young, because I got married at 19 and had Lane at 20 and Haley at 21. But I also knew that I wanted to have kids early. My mom waited till a little bit older to have kids, and I just always saw the value in having them early, so I had them early. But I also was one of the few that, like, it was so funny, because I went 3 months before the wedding and got put on birth control, because they said it would take a few months to your cycle to jive. And y'all, I had to read and learn, because I was such a little tomboy. I knew nothing of this, and I had to read and learn, and I had to. I was working in a barn cleaning 30 something staples a day, going to school full time, working full time. And I walk in with Wranglers and a ball cap and covered in horse crap to this OBGYN's office. And I'm like, I need to get put on birth control. I'm getting married in a few months, and I need my cycle. I've read that my cycle needs to rotate a few times to make sure that we're all good. He's like, oh, yes, 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 yes. And so there was like no issues with my body. He put me on birth control. Never missed it. I took it every morning at 5 a.m. when I got up, when I went to work, because I had to feed the mares at 5 a.m. So I took it every morning at 5 a.m. And we got married. My body did well with it, I thought. We got married. About a month after getting married, we moved. And right after we moved, I started getting really sick. And then one day I had a lot of bleeding and pain, and I thought, what the crap? Well, my back started hurting. My mother in law immediately took me to the doctor, and the doctor's like, well, we know why your back's hurting. You're pregnant. And I was like, no, I'm not. I've been on the pill for like almost 4 months. Way before the marriage, I got put on the pill. And the doctor's like, well, no, you're pregnant. And I'm like, there's no way. I've been on the pill. He's like, no, you're pregnant. I was like, so it took me a little while to wrap my head around it. Well, what had happened was, a few weeks later, I had a repeat of the bleeding and issues, and ended up spending about a week in the hospital. What it was I had twins, lost one. Lane hung on for dear life. I don't know if I could have two of that boy anyway, so it may have been the good Lord saying, let me do you a favor. But Lane was supposed to be a twin, and it's funny because Lane married a twin. So anyway, that's funny. So I had Lane, told the doctor about, listen, I got pregnant on the pill. I don't want that to happen. He's like, oh, well, they put you on a very light pill. It's great for people that are just getting started, but you probably need to be on something a little bit more forceful, because I had high testosterone levels because I grew up doing physical labor like men do. And he was like, we're going to put you on a heavier pill. He put me on a heavier pill. Didn't miss it. Same time every morning, because I'm a creature of habit, if nothing, especially at that time in my life. I start feeling sick, and I thought, I've got the flu. I've got the freaking flu, and I cannot shake it. Oh my God. And finally, I'm like, just take me to the doctor. We're going to have to shake this. I feel like crap. And the doctor comes in, and he's like, you're pregnant. And I was like, no, I'm not. I was like, I don't know how y'all keep doing this, but I keep taking this pill. And he's like, no, you're pregnant. And so I had to be transferred to a special place, because I actually had mono during that pregnancy. So I had to get transferred to a special physician. And that physician started watching my hormones. And then as soon after I delivered Haley, she kept watching my hormones. I had to wait 6 weeks because I begged them to tie my tubes, because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I am not a broodmare. I'm not going to have one I'm not gonna have a kid. Like, I'm not gonna have one every year. Just stop it right now. I've met my quota. I've met my pocketbook strings. They're tight. And so they were like, well, you're too young. We can't. And I was like, the pill doesn't work. And so she had started following my hormones and followed them till after Haley was born. And we had to reschedule at 6 weeks. They needed one more panel that they had pulled. So we rescheduled. And then they came back and signed the paperwork and said, yes, we'll do the two. Well, because my viable egg production was just as high on the pill as off the pill. I was like the 0.003% of the population it does nothing to. That would be me. So I'm fertile Myrtle. And I told my children and warned them, your mother was fertile Myrtle, so you probably will be too. So I did have a tubal ligation after Haley. I was 21, almost 22. But I knew that my body nor my pocketbook could have any more children. Plus, my husband at the time was starting to act like a 3-year-old, and I anticipated problems. So I knew I was at a limit. And when David and I got married, I was having endometrial problems, and we thought about reversing the tubal and having one more child to put it in remission so I could have a few more years with my organs, But by the time we would have got the money and stuff rounded up, it had just gotten too bad, and they had to take everything out. So I had a hysterectomy at 30. So I've had one of the most tumultuous relationships with your female organs ever. I get how they can revolt. I get the birth control concern issue. I get all of that. But I still want to look at society around me and see women that are logically communicating about the realities of this rather than just glorifying a tally mark or gross theater tactics on a public street at a parade. So that's what really frustrates me the most is, you can downplay something as much as you want, but the more you have to downplay it, the more you have to ridicule it, and the more you have to turn it into a joke, the more I know it really does bother you, because that's why you have to do that. So I wish we could all have the conversation that this is a very precious discussion. The women that it touches are precious. The children that it touches are precious. And we need to come to some kind of compassionate care agreement to where we're not ridiculing or downplaying anyone, but we're seeing the precious potential in everyone and trying to do the best thing possible. And not trying to do the most vile thing for social media points or for pats on the backs. It boggles my mind at some of the displays from women that I've seen in this last week. They have nothing to do with why this procedure would need to be done or how it's done. It has everything to do with personal motive and self-centered issues and psychopathy. And that terrifies me. When you can put that all on display and society goes, okay, nobody see it, no, fine, whatever. There should be some pushback. There should be some pushback to the people that are really portraying the hyper theatrical you should look at people and go, oh my God, that's not right. That's a bit much. Are you okay? And I don't see anyone doing that. Scares me to death. Yeah, at 21, I had 2 kids and a mortgage. And now kids think they have to be adolescents till 34, 35. They're still living in mom and dad's basement at 27, 28. Who are you? What are you doing? Half your life's gone. Get out there and live it. My goodness. I could not imagine. See, and when there's real issues like this in the world, and then we go and create fictitious issues to handle, we put our energy in the wrong place. Because we've got real stuff like this to handle. But we're going after theatrics and public displays of I don't know what, but yeah. I don't know. I've been the whole day, the culmination, the one thing that just tripped my trigger was when I was watching that woman and she was like, "Look at my cucumber. Comment and ask me questions about being a Greenwich Blow." And I thought, women, do better. Try harder. Don't cave. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, you have to share your phone time. I get that. I'm fixing to have to start that with a grandbaby. It's good to see you. See, that's why I wanted to have Nick too. I thought I need the energy because I watched my mom later, and she went to college later, so she was really tired. And I was like, I'm gonna do this early if I'm gonna do it. And Mother Nature just said, fine, let's go. And so I had my kids early, and it's fine. I love them to death, and people still think I'm young. I don't feel young, but I'm glad I had them early because about the time I got them raised, I was diagnosed with that neuromuscular disorder. So it all timed out perfectly. Like, good Lord he knew what he was doing. So I'm fine. I find that I have mine. It worked out. Now that I'm older, I see the wisdom in what occurred. Although when at the time I was like, what is going on with me? So because my body was not, it was like possessed. I could legit look at my ex-husband and just I was pregnant and he was like, oh Jesus. So it was very frustrating. Um and yeah, it took me a long time after I had my hysterectomy to kind of like make peace with everything I'd been through. Because number one, I was a big brawny gal. I had never been able to use my feminine wiles for anything. Then I'd had 2 children. My uterus mostly just got in my way, so I didn't miss it at all. If you ask me, dropping my transmission was the best thing I ever did. But I didn't miss it at all. But I had to mourn the fact that I didn't miss it. I had to mourn the fact that I was so happy about not having it because it had caused me so much grief, but that I was not going to get to go through other things at the normal times in life with my girlfriends. And I kind of had to mourn that. And, I've made peace with it now, but, everything has a consequence. Everything has a repercussion. Even if you think it works out good, you still have something to handle. There's still a backswing somewhere. Apparently, I was just built to have kids too. Because when I stopped having them, my body said, I'm done. Oh my gosh. You were so brave. I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't do, like, I'm like, grandbaby number one is on the way. And I'm like, man, am I going to have enough energy for this? Am I going to, and I've got friends that are still having children. And I'm like, I can't do it. I don't know how you could do it, but I can't do it. I could not even fathom. Of course, maybe if I hadn't had this disorder, things would have been different. But yeah, like I look at women that have children later in life, and I'm like, you're so brave. Like I just want to bow down and be like, you're so brave. Something I'm not sure, honestly, if you can ever say any child is truly planned. I think it's all like whack a mole. I think they just pop up when they want to. I think they pop up when they know they're supposed to pop up in your life, and I think I think that may be another thing that a lot of kids push women to potentials that are just unbelievable. When you become a mother, you get this surge of importance, and you realize what you're bringing to the world and how you affect the world, and you understand that this is a power. And so when I see women run away from that and not know that that's what they're running away from and think that they're somehow holding on to their own power by running away from it, I'm like, no, 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 no. There is this huge power in being a mother, in creating the next generation and molding the earth and society. There's this huge power. And I wish everybody could just sit down and swap and just kind of swap intentions and lives and notes from hardships and just have a conversation instead of the behavior that I'm seeing from women on the internet. But it was literally like the last thing I saw was this woman growing one cucumber, thought she had just rocked the earth. And I was like, oh my God. It just, I don't know, it just touched me the wrong way. It's one of those days. I keep telling my kids, wait until you're my age. So when I started saying that to my kids young, so now Lane, is he just turned 24, and he does a really hard job. Bless his heart, he's running full time. But and I'll be like, when I was your age, I was going to school full time, working full time, having a part time job, raising kids. And he was like, I don't even, Mom, I can't do it. So, but he's realized now, and he's sitting there, he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, in just a couple more years, he's like, I'll have a toddler, but I will be old enough to remember telling you that you were old. And now I'm going to be that age. And I'm like, it comes back and smacks you right between the eyes. So I'm enjoying the heck out of all that. I'm just going to tell you. I love absolutely being like, when I was that age. And then they're like, oh my gosh, that was not that long ago. And I'm like, nope, honey, it's a blink of an eye. That's how fast the world goes. So I like picking on my youngins. I like picking on them. I do pretty severe picking on them when they start talking about age and stuff like that. But Lane is like having this huge like epiphany of how time has passed so quickly, but he's not old. But he thought I was old at that age. So it's like it's finally hitting him, and I'm like, yeah, buddy. So it's kind of fun to watch, I have to admit. I enjoy it just a little too much. But if there's one thing, and I'll close this because I'm going to go to bed and I'm tired tonight. If there's one thing I could say is women, stop going on Instagram and thinking that growing a tomato or growing a cucumber or growing a zucchini or making a casserole is a major accomplishment in life. Stop lying to yourself. Stop looking at the easy things as hard and the hard things as easy, because that is how you're going to screw yourself up and create this circle where you're going to be incompetent, but you're also going to be you're not going to be content, because it's always going to be opposite day emotionally for you. Start to have open dialogues with yourself and talk about what is really important to you. And you may be absolutely amazed that it's not what is the equivalency of what society finds important. It may be something else, but make sure it's what's important to you, not to anyone else. Don't go out and think that you have to fit into or act like or join in with what's going on in society to be a woman or to be a woman of worth. You don't. All you have to do is look inward and be who you are supposed to be. And it doesn't have to align with a political party. It doesn't have to align with a social movement. It doesn't have to align with whatever color of witch you think you are when you can grow a cucumber. Just make sure that you are fulfilling what you want to do with your life, because that takes true power and wisdom and humility. And you have to be in tune with yourself. And right now I see a lot of women that are not in tune with anything. They're just trying to vibrate at the angry vibration of what is winning because they think they'll win too. You won't. If that is not your path, you will lose every day. That's about all I have to say. I think the last couple sentences were something to think about. And now I'm going to go and put my legs up and rest. David is supposed to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. Yeah. And so I'm trying to rest so that I can be up and have more time with him this weekend. I'm having a really hard time getting my energy back after being on those antibiotics, and my bowel's having all those problems. So I'm just like trying to get my energy back. But I probably will take tomorrow completely off unless I feel super good in the evening, and then I'll probably hit you all with little check-ins and little videos this weekend to show you what David's up to or what my lazy butt's going to be into. I'm going to be into the pool. I'm going to be into the pool. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be in the pool. But I will be doing some feedback. I do have lots of flowers blooming in the yard. May show you a little bit of our late garden we put out, and just do some little stuff, because if somebody's here, I can kind of meander through the yard more, because if I get down, I can squall for help. So I have a little bit more freedom. So I'll try to get around and do some stuff. But for the most part, I'm going to be in the pool with my big chair float, and I'm going to be doing like all of my physical therapy and stretches in the pool this weekend. I'm going to love it. And, but I do promise to do community posts and small videos to keep up with you and let you know what's going on. And I'm sure David will make an appearance in quite a few of them, because he is going to be so busy, but I will chase him and get video. So that's where I am. If you growed a cucumber today, pat yourself on the back. It's today's life lesson. You're a miracle worker. Forget Helen Keller. By God, you grew a cucumber. I gotta stop or I'm gonna get somebody mad. Love y'all. Night, guys.